Yeah, hands up. Anyone like to own their own pub? No? I'm seriously in the wrong audience here. Going to have to change my sales pitch. I don't know about Doncaster, I'm from Slough, so beat that. I live in Moulescoomb, which some of you is like this distant planet up the Lewis Road. And when I come into Brighton, there's all these pubs and cappuccino shops and shops that I don't know who the fuck goes in them and what do they sell. There's all these things, and then I live in Moulsecoomb, and there's like a shop that hasn't seen a vegetable since 1926. And the one thing which really riles me is there's no pub. Right, and our pub got closed down in May 2010 by the police. I met the chief inspector because he said basically someone was going to die there. So we felt it was probably best to close the pub down. It was a horrible pub anyway. So the pub closed. The pub in Bevendean had closed 10 years previous. So basically, I live on a housing estate, next to a housing estate, next to a housing estate, 18,000 people with no pub. 18,000 people with no cafe, unless you call the leisure centre. And I just think, right, I live in Moulsecoomb, but I feel like a second-class citizen. So earlier on, how are you going to do something about it? Am I going to just sit here and moan and go, oh, this is really crap and stuff like that? So I'm involved in an organisation called East Brighton Trust, which is basically buys properties in East Brighton and rents them out, and then from the money we make from the rent, we give to local charities. So East Brighton Trust luckily had 250 grand in the bank. And I said, why don't we buy this pub before it becomes student flats? So we bought the pub, and the trust have turned upstairs into 3 flats. And while that was going on, they did this survey. They asked supermarkets, pub chains, everyone's come and look at this building. Are you interested? And everyone went, thank you very much, but no thanks. There's no money in this bit of the city, basically. So I got together with the local vicar. Our local vicar is so amazing, Father John. He makes me want to believe in God. He is what vicars should be. So got together with Father John, and I said, look, we need a public meeting here. And we did a survey, and 70 of the old regulars come back and said, you know, really nice people. There was just a few people who wanted to kill each other in there. So we held this meeting, and we sat there twiddling our thumbs, and about 25 people turned up and said, yes, we want the pub. And about 20 people emailed and rung us up and said, sorry we can't come, but we're really interested in what you're trying to do. So we decided we need to open the pub as a cooperative. And there's quite a few cooperative shops and there's quite a few cooperative pubs all over the country. But most of them are in very, very well-to-do areas. I've been reading loads of boring prospectuses and stuff like that. And one of them, in a meeting, they raised 70 grand in the one meeting. Now, I think we probably won't be able to do that in Moulsecoomb. But so we've been working really hard for the last 2 years. Now, I basically, right, my idea, I want a pub because I want to walk down my road and go and have a beer. Since that time, I've been doing business plans, prospectus, deciding where the disabled toilet's going. The floor's uneven. I need to speak to the police about licensing. It's quite a thirsty work. So we're really, really nearly ready to issue shares, and we're going to issue shares on December the 1st. And we've kept shares really, really cheap. We've kept them as a tenner, but we need to raise £200,000, which is an enormous amount of money. But I don't know if any of you live in Prestonville area. I only went there for the first time the other day. I was like, again, another area bright. I could see Moulsecoomb from this bloke's house, but it's another world of pubs and cafes and that. And they are trying to buy their church hall and have raised £116,000 in 6 weeks. So we're trying to open this cooperative pub. And why it will be different is that pubs on estates or anywhere anymore really don't work just selling beer. So our pub will be a pub, a cafe. It will have a meeting room for people like the Pigeon Club to come and meet again. We're lucky we've got the Albion's new stadium on the bottom of the estate, and they've got an amazing charitable arm called Albion in the Community that do loads and loads of stuff on health and getting people. So we thought, well, actually, we can do health MOTs in the pub. You know, you've got all these old blokes sitting there smoking and drinking. You go, all right, we're going to do your heart monitor. You won't go to the doctor's going to come to you. So we've been thinking of all these different ideas. You know, I run a gardening project, and we're going to do up the whole garden, plant old-fashioned Sussex varieties of apple trees, grow vegetables in the garden. Those vegetables will go into the cafe. We'll speak to all the allotment holders. They'll grow vegetables in the cafe. And we'll just create this space that actually everyone owns and feels part of. So if there is people kicking off, you go, well, hang on a minute, I just invested 200 grand on, or 200 quid, or I painted the bogs, leave it out. And we had this really, it was brilliant. We had this open day. And again, in Moulsecoomb, you know, like if you have public meetings and stuff like that, you're lucky if 10 people turn up. And we had this open day and 70 people come along, and it was brilliant. It was a right old mix of people, everyone coming with their ideas. And what was fantastic, well, actually what was quite sad, there was a lot of people going, I had my wedding anniversary here, and the whole place is stripped out. There's no water, there's no electricity, it's just this empty shell. Or some old guy come hobbling on his stick and said, well, basically since they shut it, I'll just sit at home on my own. I don't go out anymore and stuff like that. And a couple down the road just said, well, where do you meet people down here? And where you meet people in Moulescoomb is the school. So I've got kids, I'm a governor of the school, that's fantastic. So there's a real gaping hole on an estate that might as well be in Doncaster. That's what I can't get my head around. You know, I got here in 10 minutes, but it is, who's ever been in Moulescoomb? Yeah? Do you want to live there?
No, I used to live there.
Yeah? Fun? See, I work with all the horrible children that you lot probably wouldn't like, but I get to know them and they're actually all right. And see, that's what we're going to do is like, what Moulescoomb has got is social capital, right? What Prestonville, they're doing this thing, they've got lawyers and architects and stuff like that. We haven't got any of that. What we've got is carpenters and plumbers and builders. We've got loads of kids with no qualifications that could work in the cafe, getting work experience, that could do up the gardens. You know, we have got a football club. You know, the best thing that's happened to that estate is that football club, giving jobs and training and employment, and also a successful football club to follow. And years ago, I lived in Brighton, I come to Brighton, and I was like, oh my God, I'm from Slough, this is amazing Brighton bubble, and I like football, which put me apart from loads of my anarchist mates. You know, they're like, oh, sport in England, and I'll just be like, ah! So I went along to a Brighton celebration, 20,000 people through the middle of town, celebrating Brighton, 2 promotions. I knew 4 people, and I just thought, this is disgusting, actually. And again, you've got that Brighton, people in Moulescoomb live in Moulescoomb, they don't live in Brighton. They don't say, I'm from Brighton, they live in Moulescoomb. There's another world, you know, and I want to be able to breach that world and say to people, look, people in Moulescoomb are good people, we can get together, we can run and own our own pub, we can run and own our own cafe. We will be the first cooperative pub on a housing estate in the UK, and people will be coming to us to look for advice and how it could be done. And that, to me, is brilliant for all the kids on the estate. I mean, I work at Moulescoomb Primary, and that is the best school in the city. I know none of you are going to believe me. But if you go to their school grounds and what they've done there, it's fantastic. And I know we can replicate that on a housing estate in Moulescoomb. And that's why I'm proud to live in Brighton. I think if I lived in the middle of town anymore, I'd have what your friends have got with that cynical, I'm fed up, I want to go. And but when I first moved to Brighton, my mates from Brighton said, oh, I fucking hate Brighton. I was like, here's the keys, go and fucking live with my dad in Slough then. Live there for a year and then moan about Brighton. So anyway, what I'd like to say, I'd finish off with, shares are going to be launched in December the 1st. We're launching in the church. Father John's Church have adopted the pub as their mission statement, which is fantastic because, again, it's all about perceptions. People go, oh, there's lots of fighting there. But they're launching the pub shares in a church, an amazing old church. So it is a Catholic church. I've been around his house getting drunk more times than, you know, he's a proper vicar. He's what vicars should be. So what I'm asking people here, even if you don't like pubs, but you like the idea, go join us on Facebook, go on our Twitter account, and buy a share. You know, we're selling. What we're doing at Christmas is, what do you buy your dad at Christmas? What?
How's it called?
Thebevy.co.uk. If you go on there, and that'll have Facebook and the Twitter accounts and stuff like that. I mean, what a great name. The pub's called the Bevendean, the Bevy. I mean, it's just made for a cooperative pub, isn't it? Supported by a local vicar. I mean, what, you know, this all falls, you know, when you were saying earlier, just things fall into place in Brighton. We have, and it will be in there, I'll tell you that. So I'm asking people to support it, you know, buy shares for your mum and your granddad and your dad, and people just think, they don't want socks, they want to own a pub. Yeah? And so what we're hoping is just generate interest and get people in Moulescoomb to be proud that they're from Brighton, and people in Brighton to go to Moulescoomb and sort of have those worlds collide for a little bit. So, thank you.